it from time to time as people drift in. So look, we're looking at the numbers for the May real estate data for Wellington, of course. Values have been dropping for a wee while. Wellington is unquestionably the laggard across the country for reasonably well-known reasons, I think. Are there signs that perhaps they're plateauing and the drops are being arrested now? It's probably too early to say that, but that's a question I've got. Finally, some good news for sellers. The number of new listings coming to the market is dropping compared to a year ago. Thank the Lord. From a selling perspective, if you're sellers, you want fewer new listings coming to the market. Obviously, we're in that time of the year where there are fewer listings compared to earlier months, winter, heading into winter and so on. That's just a seasonal change. But when we compare it to the same time last year, new listings coming down. So that's really good news for those of you, if you are thinking of selling. Doesn't mean, prices aren't going up, but it just means it's easier to get the attention of buyers. So the risk of not attracting at least some buyers in the market to come and have a look at your property and consider purchasing it, that risk reduces when there is less competition in terms of fresh listings on the market. Message to buyers is there's still a lot of choice out there, so get amongst it. All right, let's get into it. Median sale price, 795 versus 785 a year ago, up 1%, up a bit, down a bit. It's broadly going sideways since about July 2022. As you can see from the red line there, the 6-month moving average, clearly that is broadly sideways here. So yeah, up a bit, down a bit, as I say. But if you follow these videos or these calls and my data and so on, I don't pay too much attention to median sale price. The trend is instructive, but if you want to be more accurate, the Real Estate Institute House Price Index is a better guide, and here are the league tables. So we're down 25.3% compared to the peak. That's about as bad as it's gotten. We were roughly at this point about 2 years ago, May 2023. We recovered a bit as we came into the elections. After the elections, we softened a bit again. We recovered a bit late last year, and then we've softened, and values have fallen again through about earlier parts of this year. Auckland not far behind us at 22.3% down, but Wellington overall 16 or thereabouts % down. So we're quite a bit worse than the rest of the country. Over the last 12 months, the same story really. We're down just over 3%, more than anywhere else in the country. And as you can see, quite a number of regions in the country are in positive territory over the last 12 months or so. And I'm afraid to say the same is true over the last 3 months. So we are the worst performer over 3 months, 1 year, and 5 years. It's a clean sweep. We're the worst across the board. Not 1 month. There are places that are worse than us on 1 month, but 1 month is such a short time period. The data is so variable. I just don't pay much attention to it. So it's a bit depressing, really, for us poor Wellingtonians. Yeah, what can I say? There's the graph there, so you can see Wellington region down 3%, just over 3% over the last year, down nearly 3% over the last 3 months, indeed. Over the last 1 month, barely down. 0.2% down over 1 month. Again, as I said, that over a short period of time, the data is more variable, so I don't know if you could conclusively say that it's dropping, but it's barely dropping, only just. And you can see the shape of the graph there. So the degree to which we fell in May, almost at zero, significant improvement on March and April, but the cumulative result has dropped because we've eliminated in the 3-month result that result there, which was of course 4 months ago now. So the cumulative result, you've got the 1 month and the 3-month diverging like that for that reason. So over the last year, all regions across Wellington, all territorial authorities across Wellington, at least the 4 main ones, Wellington City, Upper and Lower Hutt, and Porirua City, all in negative territory, and not by not barely negative, but several percentage points. Over the last 3 months, fairly consistently negative, except Porirua City. That's an outlier. Interestingly, I think it was Upper Hutt City. Last month, Upper Hutt City wasn't positive over the previous 3 months. This time it's Porirua City. So you can see these things, even over a 3-month period, they still bounce around a bit. And interestingly, and this is this a glimmer of hope that perhaps we're turning a corner? Wellington City, the only territorial authority to be in negative territory over the last 1 month. Now, again, I'll reiterate, 1 month, very short period of time, data bounces all over the place, very, very variable. So one swallow does not make a summer, does it? But given that all three, Porirua, Upper Hutt and Lower Hutt, are all in positive territory, and not only just, they're all by a percentage at least. Wellington City sort of bucking the trend there is definitely the laggard. So I don't know. Is this an early sign that perhaps we've turned a corner? Let's see what the numbers look like next month. And there's Wellington City, poor old Wellington City. The graph there is broadly the same shape, more erratic, bigger highs, bigger lows. And again, this divergence between the 1 month and the 3 months is slightly more exaggerated for Wellington City as it is for Wellington Region. And as you can see there, look, Wellington City over the last 1 month down 0.6%, everywhere else up over at least a percentage point. So yeah, interesting. We'll see if the rest of the region continues to show some strength like that. That would be nice. But yeah, poor old Wellington City is definitely the laggard in the region, and indeed the region is the laggard in the country. So yeah, it's a bit sad for us Wellington City folk. New listings in the month, 632 this past May versus 931 a year ago and 458 2 years ago. So look, a big drop compared to a year ago. This is great news, as I was saying at the start, for sellers. What you want when you are a seller coming to market, more than the gross number of listings to be low. You do want the gross number of listings to be low, but what's more important is the number of new listings that you are competing with this week. You can imagine as a buyer, if you've been in the market a few months and now you're actually getting ready to buy, because the buyers who are in the market fresh this week or this fortnight or this month, they're not ready to buy. If you're fresh in the market, you get onto TradeMe and you see everything that's on the market for the first time. After you've been in the market for 3 months, 6 months, and you're now match fit, as I call it, you are ready to buy. You know what you want. You know what budget you can stretch to. You know what you're willing to compromise on, what you're not. And you know when something comes on, you know it matches and you know that's the one for you and you can act on it quickly. You're more decisive. You are looking at the new listings. You've looked at everything else. You've discounted it for whatever reason. You're now just keeping an eye on the new listings this week. And when they drop from 80 to 60 to 40, that starts to feel quite constrained and quite frustrating. And that can bring a bit more urgency into the buyer behavior. So new listings is more important when considering the ease of which it's to get buyers' attention than the gross number of listings on the market. It's always about what happens at the margins. So yeah, big drop, 32% down on a year ago. Interestingly, it's still 38% more than 2 years ago in May 2023. As I mentioned earlier on, in the sort of early to mid 2023, the market was strengthening, and that is indicative of that. We were at low levels of new supply, and that's what drove the strengthening market. It all fell apart when the election happened and everyone decided, I'm going to put my property on the market now. So you can see there the red line, the 6-month moving average, that shows the overall trend. We saw big increases in listing volumes, as I said, after the election, massive. Then new listings started dropping away in sort of middle of last year. They started increasing again end of last year, first few months of this year, and the last couple of months you see the trend there coming back down again. So yeah, as I say, good news for sellers. Down lots, yes. And that's interesting. Excuse me. So for the first time in quite some time, again, reflective of the good news for sellers, the number of new listings coming to the market is less than what we typically see for the month. We have seen for a number of months, for quite some time now, we've seen more listings coming to market than what is normal. So again, this makes it really easy for buyers, lots of choice. Don't worry if I don't get this one. There's always more coming next week. It gives them a real relaxed feeling that there's no pressure whatsoever. Prices aren't going up, plenty of time. I don't need to worry about it. There's more coming around the corner. Now we've got fewer listings, not by a great amount, but still it's better than the other way around for those of you who are sellers. So yep, as I say, that's positive stuff. And there it is in graphical format. So you can see there for quite some time, we've been seeing significantly more new listings coming to market than the previous 12 months prior. And in the last, and that red line, you can see that it's been coming right down and it's crossed over the x-axis and gone into negative territory over the last couple of months. So yep, good news for sellers, as I keep saying. What about number of sales? And the story here for the last couple of years has been, or 3 years really, since we reached these insane low levels of sale volumes. I mean, to be below 600 on average over a 6-month period in Wellington region, that's like, well, we hadn't been in that territory ever since I started recording this data, except for when we went into COVID lockdown, when the market was literally shut, as you can see here in early to mid 2020. Then we've been below 600 for quite some time. So I'm talking about 3 years ago, the number of sales slowly grinding slowly out of this horrible low trough. Very, very slowly, but quite consistently over the last 3 years, increasing. And so over the last sort of 6 to 9 months, on average, we've been bumping around that, what would normally be right at the bottom of the normal range, 600 to 800 a month, at around that 600 level. And this month, 699, 617 on average over the last 6 months. And you can see there, look, compared to 1 year ago and 2 years ago, 3% more than a year ago, 6% more than 2 years ago. So again, that's consistent with a really slow but consistent grind out of those lows, slowly increasing number of sales taking place. So that is, again, good news, although it's very slow. Still slightly short, but only just short of what we typically see in terms of number of sales for the month of May. And so slightly less than what's average, certainly beats significantly less, which we have been seeing over the last 3 years or so. And there it is in another format. So, yep, as you can see, generally over the last 2 years, we've been seeing more sales taking place than we saw the 12 months prior. The degree to which it's greater than 12 months ago has been waning, as you would expect. The longer time goes on that we see more than 12 months ago, the harder it is to continue to see more than 12 months ago. But nonetheless, we are still seeing that for the meantime, at least. So these are positive signs for sellers. Fewer new listings coming to the market and continually, slowly increasing number of sales. So improving conditions for sellers. Slowly, it will erode the degree to which it's a buyer's market. How many days it's taken to sell? A long time, back up quite to 50 days. And so for a few months there, we were quite a bit below that. So compared to 39 days a year ago, 54 days 2 years ago. So again, 2 years ago it was taking longer, but we're significantly longer than we were a year ago. 40 days is average for May. So at 50 days, we're about 25%, or exactly 25% longer than what we typically see in May. So that's not a great news story. It's typically not quick to sell property. Inventory, 15 weeks worth of supply versus 14 weeks a year ago, 14 weeks 2 years ago. 15 weeks is exactly the long-term average. Now that would suggest that what we're seeing in May was a balanced market, because it's exactly the same amount of supply that we would typically see on the market when expressed in terms of a number of weeks worth of demand. It certainly doesn't feel like a balanced market, and one reason for that perhaps is that because compared to the last 10 years, what's been average is 10 weeks. But compared to sort of recent living memory, 15 weeks feels a lot more of a buyer's market than a hard market than what we've seen in the last 10 years or so. Number of TradeMe listings there. So you can see the red line. Look, we're at very high levels of TradeMe listings. As I said at the start, what experienced buyers, the buyers that are ready to buy, what they're really looking at is the new stuff, not the gross quantum of listings available. And when you see the number of listings dropping, that generally indicates that more properties are selling than are coming to the market. Of course, it's not a property selling is not the only reason it comes off the websites. It can also just be withdrawn because it's the vendor is frustrated that it hasn't sold. And so you are seeing still quite a bit of that, but nonetheless, you've got supply contracting. Now that is typically the case as we head into winter because the flow of new stock coming on slows down because everyone thinks it's a terrible time to sell your property in winter. It's not actually true, and that is the reason why, because everyone thinks that it is a bad time to sell, therefore they don't put their property on the market, therefore supply constrains, therefore it's easy to get the attention of the buyers. So go against the flow of the herd is the moral of the story. Anyway, 3,074 listings on TradeMe earlier today versus 2,848 a year ago, 2,253 2 years ago. So we're a bit ahead of a year ago, a lot ahead of 2 years ago. You can see the shape of the red line there. On average, in the last 6 months, we're at the highest levels we've seen for 10 years. So seasonally, things are contracting. The last couple of months, we've seen some positive signs. Fewer listings coming on, more selling. That's good. But in terms of gross quantum, we're still roughly at the highest levels we've seen for 10 years. And there it is in another format. We're still ahead of 10 years ago. As you can see, where the graphs are slightly ahead of above the x-axis, but not by much. Sort of 3 years ago, you see there we were 150% more than 12 months prior. Of course, that's when you're comparing it to very, very low listing volumes. But yeah, still ahead of a year ago. So look, in summary, folks, Wellington volumes are down, but only just in the last month, but definitely down versus 12 months ago, and especially the case for Wellington City, which is definitely the laggard of the region. New listings down versus 12 months ago. And for the first time in ages, the number of new listings coming to the market is below average for the month. Sales volumes up slightly, as has been the case for some time, ever so slightly increasing over time in terms of sales volumes. Duration to sell up again, and we're back to quite long, 50 days. It's quite a long time for Wellington. Inventory is at exactly normal long-term levels, but quite a lot of inventory compared to the last 10 years that we've seen in terms of what's normal for the last 10 years at least. TradeMe listings are up versus last June, but down seasonally over the last few months, as is often the case as we head into winter, but exacerbated by the fact that we're seeing sales volumes go up and new listing volumes come down, as we keep saying. So the message for sellers, the fewer new listings will definitely help. There's still a lot of supply. You still have to fight hard for the competition, for the attention of buyers, but this slowdown in new listings coming to market definitely will help. It's a good news story for sellers, and we will take any small win we can get. And for buyers, there's still lots to choose from, so get amongst it. Big thanks, as always, to Real Estate Institute and realestate.co.nz. So that's what I've got for you today, folks, in terms of the data. I'm happy to have a discussion, take questions, anything you need. Got a bit of time? Peter Reed, you're always good for a good question. No questions.
Hello.
Quite a lot. The cold weather is making you retreat into your shells. All right, all good, folks. Obviously, if you want any advice on your individual situation, please feel free to reach out. If you do need to sell, it certainly still can be done, but you definitely need to do it right. I incidentally am bringing one of my properties to market next week. Actually, obviously, I'm not selling it, but I'm the vendor, so that'll be interesting to see. It's always sobering to actually be on the end of a transaction. In the last 20, 30 years I've been buying more than I've been selling. But obviously, as a real estate agent, it's good to be a seller from time to time to remind myself firsthand what the experience is like. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we go. But anyway, yeah, if you want advice, just reach out. You know how to reach me. Otherwise, best of luck, stay warm, and see you next time.